With the recent launch of the animated spin-off, Star Wars Tales of the Underworld, which features the origin story of Cad Bane, I thought about revisiting his first live-action debut from the Book of Boba Fett, as some fans weren't exactly happy with how he looked. So, let's see if we can fix it. Now, you can argue that the animation style is very distinct and wouldn't translate exactly the same over to live action, but if you've got a keen eye and you're a fan of the original trilogy, then you would know that Cad Bane's species already appears in A New Hope back in 1977. You can clearly see the character design is a lot closer to the animation rather than what we were shown in the Book of Boba Fett. Now, you may have seen another YouTuber called Cinematic Captures tackle some of these shots a while back where they did a great job at recreating Cad Bane's likeness based on the Clone Wars TV series, but due to time restraints and them dropping their video within less than 24 hours of the actual episode being released, I'm going to take more time on this and actually expand on what they did. But before getting into more detail, please hit that like and subscribe button for more videos like this. Thanks everyone, I appreciate it. After analyzing what Cinematic Captures did, they're clearly using some kind of mesh warping tool and it looks great, but let's take things a step further. So I'm looking at the original footage. You can see how stiff and restricted the acting is because of the prosthetics used for the character. There's limited movement going on in the mouth, the cheeks, the eyelids, and under the forehead just looks lifeless, as if he's had too many Botox injections.
Just a little Botox, a little filler.
Those eyes are also looking pretty dead too, so let's try to really draw out all of that emotional response and enhance his overall performance. So I've been testing out some of these new morphing techniques and just been kind of experimenting with how it works. The first thing I did was changing Cad Bane's pug-like looking face. His whole nasal area looks really puffy, so I want to pinch that in just a little bit, which is already starting to make a big difference. Then I adjusted the cheeks because I want to make it look like he's snarling. I also adjusted the eyelids to make it look like he's squinting in the desert sun. The other biggest change was pulling that mouth down right next to his chin, and for the cherry on top, I extended the peak of his head to complete that more classic Clone Wars style look. Now I want to try and somehow animate that same morphing effect and increase the amount of movement that the face is showing. Here's what's really cool about this effect. If I toggle around the distortion values in the controls tab, I actually have full control over how much you can move. We are literally creating new facial muscles on top of already existing facial features. But I'm running into a problem. When I play the footage with the effect still on, the morphing effect just starts going all over the place. The reason why this is happening is because the effect isn't exactly connected to the face in any way, so I want to find a way to track and isolate it, and here's what I look to for inspiration. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that in 1995, the same company that did the visual effects for the Boba Fett series actually pioneered this exact same VFX technique for the movie Forrest Gump? When Tom Hanks is meeting each celebrity, to make their interactions more convincing, they're using digital reconstruction by redubbing over the original footage and manipulating the actions of each person. I'm actually kind of shocked that they didn't go for this idea when settling the final look of Cad Bane. I think it would have been a good plan for something like this. So I want to use this same VFX method to increase the movements of Cad Bane's facial expressions. Usually when you're trying to enhance a character like this in real life, you'd have to do 3D modeling, rigging, texturing, lighting, and compositing with the whole thing. But in this case, we're completely skipping all of that and going another route. To begin with, I made a 2D track of the face with the transform and rotation properties enabled, stabilized the track type, and then applied all of this to the track. So now when I watch it again, it's attached specifically to the movements of the face only. I went ahead and made it into a pre-comp. What this does is it takes all that work we just did and puts it into a little group by itself. But now I have another problem. Because I prioritize stabilizing the face, the footage is clipping through the frame parameters based on the movements I just tracked. So we want to go back into the pre-comp I made and increase the aspect ratio. That way now it's not cutting out of the viewport anymore and is staying within the open space. Now that I got more room to play with, I want to take that tracking data from my stabilized facial footage and copy all that information to stabilize the main composition from breaking out of the frame without changing the scale. First, I connected both the position and anchor point values between each layer. What this does is it keeps the footage in one place instead of it moving around so much. But we still got the rotation issue. To fix this, I'm going to connect both rotation values together. Then I want to reverse the value of the script by multiplying a negative number to the expression. Boring! When I play this again, the footage is back to being normal. And you know what's even better? All those morphing strokes we made a while ago are now tracked to the face. Now it's time to animate. I've already created my setup in the effects panel. Each one has its own separate control that acts as an individual muscle of the facial structure. I'm kinda having to guess the anatomy of how the facial expressions would emote, given the fact that it's not an actual person's face that I'm working with. So the logic depends entirely on how I convey it visually. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look. And look at that. This actually came out a lot better than I thought it would. Not only is the morphing effects tracking so well, the animation for it is making it so much more fluid. But the problems don't end there. Now there's another thing to worry about. I'm also working with some other shots where the camera is moving from a medium shot to a close-up. Instead of just tracking for the transform and rotations, now I need to track for the scale. So I made another 2D track. This time I want to enable the scale along with all the tracking methods I used on the prior shots. After it's all stabilized and connected to each other with how I did it beforehand, this time I want to write a different expression in the script that lets me correct the scale of the footage. And now when I play this again, that little add-on to the scripting puts it back to the original size. After all of that, I went ahead and started morphing up all of the face details and then animated the new look. So not only is it attached to the face, the effect is also correctly following the distance from where the camera is as CAD Bane is still in the frame. Alright, I am finally done with the VFX, let's show it.
I'd be careful where I was sticking my nose if I were you.
Is it friendly advice or a threat?
Boba Fett is a cold-blooded killer who worked for the Empire.
You tell your spice runners Tatooine's closed for business.
When he's in the desert, it just felt a bit disconnected, like the character was just placed into the scene without actually being in it. But now, the face reacts so much more realistically to the environment. Compared to how it looked beforehand, there's a clear sense of interaction with the world around him. You've got all these other external factors coming together all at once. The dry, heavy heat of the desert, the harsh sunlight casting intense highlights, and the constant wind pressing against everyone.
I think I have an idea how to draw Boba Fett out.
In the original shot, CAD Bane is devising this evil plan, but I noticed that his face just isn't matching that same level as to how he's supposed to say it. So I went ahead and made some changes. I wanted to make it look like his eyes were focused like he was thinking in that moment. And for the finishing touches, I gave him this little smirk at the end, and followed that expression with the eyes and cheeks, showing that he's developed the idea.
I've known you a long time, Boba. One thing I can't figure. What's your angle? Let's find out. There's no shame in it.
For when he's finally confronting Boba Fett, I didn't want to just over-exaggerate the facial expressions as to how it did before. He needed to look like he was more on his guard this time. I also wanted to keep it sincere in a subtle way. This is where I think the eyes are more in play with what's happening than anything else. I really worked on how they looked and how they were expressed, rather than just focusing on the overall matter. His focus is set on Boba only. This idea was taken from the final chapter of Movies Remaster's Boba Fett Chronological Cut, an idea I initially rejected. But as I dug deep into the design brief and really started experimenting with the variations, something shifted. We soon realized this wasn't just about visuals, it was also about pushing the performance to its absolute limits. I really like how making those adjustments to the face and over-exaggerating the animation really brings CAD Bane's live-action portrayal to a whole new level. Check out moviesremastered.com for future updates. Alright, that's it from me. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button, comment all of your thoughts down below, and I will see you in the next one.